Welcome everybody, my name is EruptionFang and this is episode 2 of Genlock titled, There's Always Tomorrow. Now this episode picks up right where the last one left off with Chase's reveal to everyone. Weller goes on to explain what we as the audience already sort of knew. He explains the classified program he's a part of and makes an attempt to tell everyone how it works. Basically, to control one of these Holums, you must have the correct nervous system that allows you to be compatible and pilot it. A lot of it was definitely confusing as it's made up technology that tries to explain itself, but I think the basic point was eventually reached. The next scene we got was between Miguel and Chase, and honestly it felt weirdly comedic. I mean, obviously jokes were being thrown left and right. The scene was meant to be funny, but I do find that weird. You'd think there'd be a bit more of a dramatic reaction to seeing one of your friends who you thought was dead for 4 years, literally halved and kept alive by a tube. Comedy just didn't seem like the instinctual go-to reaction. And Weller is once again here to continue and explain the Genlock program. One of my hopes with this series is that the line between the Vanguard and the Union is sort of blurred. I really hope the show splits the audience in choosing whether or not the Vanguard is in the right or the Union. Right now it's very generic. Vanguard is good, Union is bad. There's no reason for it. There's no explanation for why the Union is bad other than they kill people, maybe. So I hope it really explores both sides of this war. Then we are introduced to our characters. They get briefed, suit up, and prepare for training. However, it is revealed that one of them is a spy, Sinclair. I knew Blaine didn't fit in with this cast. After some pretty cool action, he takes Dr. Weller hostage, seeking to get his hands on one of the Holums. Dr. Weller manages to deduce that he's not the real Sinclair, and so he allows him to try and connect, resulting in incompatibility and his death. What I said last episode about hopefully getting some more personality in here once our main cast of characters come into play, thankfully, did happen. I'm still not keen on Miranda's squad and Chase's friends, but at least we're getting, no pun intended, some diversity here. One of the things that I like the most about the characters this episode is how they reacted when Sinclair was busted. It tells a lot about a person by the way they react to a situation like that. When fight or flight kicks in, it's cool to see where certain people are. Ida, McLeod, and Valentina all ducked for cover at the beginning. A wild situation breaks out, duck your head and figure out what to do. McLeod was the most interesting one, whereas Ida and Valentina ducked for protection. McLeod curled up into a ball and sorta freaked out. It's showing that she's not trained in combat or even how to handle situations like this. She's not used to it, she's shocked and likely never been in a scenario like this. In the fight or flight, she definitely ran. She had her moment later on when she hacked the alarms to go off, of course showing us what her character does, but her character does definitely provide a lot of interest in how she's going to learn to deal with combat. Ida, once he got his bearings down, tried to help, showing that he is also willing to fight, but I think establishing that he's going to be a bit of a comedic relief wipes out. Valentina here, I would say, holds one of my nitpicks with the episode. She also attacks in a way I feel is very appropriate for her character. However, my nitpick here is that she missed. Not 1 minute ago, Sinclair just took a bullet to the side. The armor is capable of protecting him, so I feel as though the knife should have hit to show that she's skilled. You know, she's good at what she does as a covert operative. He's not bobbing or weaving, he's running in a straight line with his back turned to her. I mean, she has this assassin-esque vibe to her, and for all of these other cool things that the other characters had going on or were doing, she threw a knife and missed. I know it seems very minute, but these are first impressions we're dealing with here. And Madrani definitely stole the show and very easily earned the top spot as my current favorite character. Of course there was the fight. In the fight or flight argument, she fought. And she fought hard. With almost no hesitation, immediately recognizing and trying to subdue the threat is incredibly admirable. But even more admirable than that, and the main reason I like her, was her reaction when she thought she was being detained. Yes, it is quite a shocker that she used to be part of the Union, but she doesn't try to deny it. She puts her hands up and very calmly tries to explain the situation she believes herself to be in. She was pretty much ready to be arrested and wasn't hostile. It's very easy to have a character be like, whoa, talk to Dr. Weller, he'll sort everything out. Practically the same words are being spoken, but it's about how the character is viewing things from the other side. In the aggressive response, the individual is seeing the other person as the bad guy. But in the situation Yasmin carried herself, it's an understanding from where they're coming from. She understands, yeah, this looks bad, and I understand why you're doing this without knowing everything, but I'm not the bad guy. It's a very simple reaction, but one that I love so much. Sure, it's probably an excuse just for some of our characters to not trust Madrani, but I like her nonetheless. And even to continue to talk about what I like about her character, her body language. Her body language I also feel as though was telling some stuff about her. Now, I may just be reading too much into this, but when Dr. Weller pointed the attention of the class to her, she didn't seem very comfortable with that. Almost as though she doesn't like the attention, thinking everyone was judging her. She's in the very back of the room and her arms are crossed, which is typically the body language of a very reserved individual, someone who's more comfortable alone as opposed to groups. But when she is in a group, she does seem to be just fine, so maybe it is, maybe it isn't. If it is, then that's a compliment, but if it isn't, then that's still a compliment, but you did not deserve it. Meanwhile, on the opposite side of the spectrum, I find Chase. He's not exactly on the opposite side of the spectrum, but he's not on the good side. Chase sort of feels like he lacks personality, a character. I feel as though all of his lines this episode were just jokes or comedy, most of which weren't even that funny. But the main issue I had with Chase this episode was in regards to Miranda. You see, last episode I said how everyone sort of felt like the exact same person, and I wasn't really invested into any of these characters, primarily because it was the first episode. So I didn't feel bad for Miranda that she thought Chase had died because their relationship was literally just introduced. So I didn't really care. This episode managed to do a much better job with Miranda. It's capable of giving you more sympathy for her. You understand what she's going through, and that's the most important thing. However, your boy Chase doesn't do great here. Last episode, I couldn't gather any discernible traits that fit to him, and the scene did not help. You see, before and even in this episode, he has a very charismatic personality. People like him, and he's the lead pilot of Genlock, so he's a leader. But this scene did not help reinforce that. Last episode, he and Chase seemed like a lovely couple. It was believable, it was sweet, and it does not carry over. As stated, Miranda's emotions are completely understandable. She feels betrayed that Chase has been alive for 4 years and didn't know. But Chase comes off here almost aggressive. He starts defending himself, trying to justify his reasoning without trying to understand Miranda's side. It's the exact opposite of what I was talking about with Madrani. But Chase feels the need to defend himself without recognizing that now's probably not the best time. Yes, his side of the story should be heard, but perhaps he should have thought about the perspective of his girlfriend who thought he's been dead for 4 years. A simple, "I'm sorry" may have sufficed. That nice romantic vibe that they had last episode is not in this scene. This is the dialogue of a couple that needs to break up. Once again, the situation is very understandable from the perspective of Miranda, but Chase here lacks a bit of character. This isn't the reaction I'd expect from a leader. This isn't the mentality I'd picture someone like him having. Madrani seems like the leader. She seems like she should be in charge of the team because of that ability to see things from the other perspective. And that's even more reinforced because she literally knows both the Vanguard and the Union's perspectives. Chase right now is a very mundane and vanilla character these past 2 episodes. He's likable and relatable, which seems to be the point, but there's no current substance to him. Of all the main characters right now, he's at the bottom. Going back to a character that I really like and I mentioned last episode, Weller. What I'm currently liking about Weller is his brain. A lot of shows will try and pretend that a character is smart without having them do smart or even logical things. But Weller right now isn't smart because the plot is allowing him to be smart, but it genuinely feels like he himself is thinking. He's taken hostage and theorizes as to whether or not this is Sinclair, which he ultimately determines he is not. And he makes an educated gamble to allow this man to hook up to Genlock to ultimately kill him. But the beauty of what this did is show that characters are acting independently. Chase's instinctual reaction was, this guy's gonna hijack a Harlem, and so he planned on cutting him off there. So even if this was Sinclair, Chase would have likely stopped him. The show provides alternative solutions. It's showing that characters think and act in different ways. It's not some hive mind of yes men where every single character is gathered to the exact same place, only allowing for one single solution to play out. It was a good branching path. Plus, I love Dr. Weller's double eyebrow raise. It's like, you impressed? The action. I'm really enjoying the action. Not so much the fighter jets from last episode, but the more hand-to-hand combat from the humans and the Harlems. It looks really good, it feels really good, and as before, the camera work is great. However, the weird thing to me this episode was the nano cloud. That was weird. You ever watch Avatar: The Last Airbender? He looks like a firebender, but like a nano bender. It was extremely odd and provided the most confusion of this episode for me. Obviously, we don't know what it is. It kills people, It messes with tech, but it also doesn't do that. When he got cut off by the door, it just stopped working? Was it working? I mean, they're not reacting. You'd imagine that this cloud that literally kills people, they'd be a bit more panicked when it's all around them. Instead, they're treating it like it's a house cat rubbing up against them. But if it is doing nothing, why is it doing nothing? Is it because there's a door in the way? That doesn't make sense. In the last episode, it was all over the place. It was going inside of buildings. It was consuming everything. So what's the logic? What's the reasoning? What is this? I don't have answers. These are just actual questions. The same problem I had with last episode continues in this one, where I still have no idea about anything regarding the Union. Yeah, the ability to make yourself look like someone is cool, but I already gathered that the technology is cool. You have people like Madrani and Evil Sinclair, which shows that actual people stood by them, that they're not mindless robots going around murdering everyone. But it's yet to establish any discernible plot where I can think, okay, now I have a reason to root for you. I don't like their current motivation being, they're evil, they kill people, root for the Vanguard. So that continues to be a criticism I have with this episode. You know, seeing the overhype by Rooster Teeth really made me question this series. Is it actually good, or did they dump way too much money into it that they need to make sure it turns a profit? Obviously, they're gonna praise the show. They're not gonna make a series and be like, it's alright. But after watching episode 1, I thought, yep, they overhyped it. But then I realized that all these tweets saying how good it is referred to the first 2 episodes. They watched the first 2 episodes at the same time, and that's how I feel this should have been done. I feel as though episode 1 and 2 should have been combined into an hour-long first episode. I know why they didn't do it, but I definitely feel that was meant to be the intention, which is why they released them both at the exact same time. Episode 1 is nothing special. Episode 2 plays off the first one perfectly, so it should have just been one long episode. This episode is where the praise for the series comes from, for good reason. This is the episode that has made me invested into the world and the characters. This is the episode that has made me excited for the future of Genlock.